Welcome to our ongoing series. This will be episode 4 of the Last Word Picture. We are taking a very close and up personal examination of the final proverb, which in Hebrew is a mashal, and it means to paint pictures with words. And oh my, does this one have a beautiful portrait? It actually is the portrait of my beloved wife that is presented in this. And well, someone might say, well, that's a bit presumptuous, isn't it? No, it is not. We've already covered many proof texts to show that it is, in fact, of my wife. Our Wookiee here has just decided that he has not had his fill thus far of cappuccino. So we have a spoiled pooch. Nevertheless, we have delved into the text of what Ruth had to say, what Leah had to say 4,000 years ago, what Yahweh had to say, what Dode had to say about the Amma, this woman that was brought to him that actually restored his relationship with Yahweh so that she could restore ours. And we are going to learn as we move through this text that she is representing the Zeroah, of which there are only 3. 3 times it's going to be said that she is married, her husband is Baal, and that he is Yada.
His name is Yada, yes.
Yeah, his name is Yada.
He is known as Yada.
And that the descriptions of her leave no doubt. And it's not so much that this is, well, it's a big deal that the final word picture would paint a portrait of a woman and what she accomplished long ago, 3,000 years ago to be exact. It's the lessons we can learn from this. And one of the lessons is that while the Torah is replete with some extraordinary men doing exceptional things, as it turns out, the most important of all men was saved by a woman. And had it not been for this woman, we wouldn't be here. The planet wouldn't be here. There'd be no purpose to life. So there's a lot that is writing on this. So as we press forward and pick up exactly where we left off on the last program, if you haven't listened to previous programs, it'll sound like we're just jumping right into the middle of this. But this is where we left off on episode 3. And as we press forward, the man whose sacrifice would be symbolized by wine, Passover, would apparently consume way too much of it before it was time. He drowned his guilt in the fruit of the vine. Therefore, his surrogate mother remarked to him, "It is not for those authorized to govern, Lamuel, one inseparable from God. No, not for kings, not for counselors or leaders to be drunk, especially with wine, or for those who govern in a significant or judicious capacity to crave intoxicating libations. Otherwise, perhaps, he would continually get drunk, and he'd forget, even overlook and ignore what has been written as inscribed prescriptions and change, creating different variations each year of the means to determine right and wrong, executing good judgment regarding all of the children of the afflicted and suffering, the harassed and the persecuted." That is Mashal, word picture 31, 4, and 5. Now, one of the things that is needs to be said, because most people are unaware of it, there were only 2 beverages that could be consumed in a city and to have the population within that city survive.
Yeah.
You know what they were?
Beer and wine.
Beer and wine. And why were beer and wine the go-to beverage for everyone living?
Because water was deadly.
Pardon?
Water was deadly.
Yeah, water was deadly. It had pathogens in it.
Yes,
And before
absolutely.
they had chlorine to chlorinate it,
Mhm.
before they knew to boil it to get rid of the pathogens,
Or how
the
sanitation.
the alcohol that was developed from fermenting yeast killed the pathogens in water.
Mhm.
And the reason for that, the water being contaminated, is when lots of people live together, the sanitary conditions are not good. They have a tendency to tinkle and poo in places where they shouldn't. And so this made civilization impossible without beer and wine. So everyone, I mean, even children, drank beer and wine. Otherwise, they could not have survived. So it is not uncommon that someone would have a little too much to drink. But your lecture to Dode in this case was you're drinking too much. And, it was likely that this was the case too, because his judgment was impaired. He made a number of really bad decisions at this time. And one of them was to go on the roof of his palace and look down and spy on a naked woman and then send messengers to bring her to him so that he could do the deed with her. And
What you're
then,
describing,
pardon?
what you're describing
Mhm.
is a man who's drunk on power.
Well, he is. He was drunk on power. That is true.
There are many ways to be drunk,
Yeah.
intoxicated.
Yes, but this does say drunk on wine. So
Okay.
we're going to take it literally.
At face
I have no
value.
problem with you expanding it figuratively. You were the one giving this lecture, and that's the way that you see it. Then that is also fine. So don't be drunk on power. Don't be drunk on wine. And she referred to him as Lemuel. One of the things I didn't mention at any depth in our previous programs is that some people would say, well, this Lemuel was a king, right? So who was Lemuel the king? Well, there wasn't any. There was no king in and around Israel. Yehuda, Israel as an independent kingdom, which didn't, by the way, even exist at this time as an independent kingdom, or any of the nations surrounding Israel that was named Lemuel. And it just means this person approaches God as one who is indispensable to God. So it's a very unique designation. And of course, it is describing the firstborn of God, the Messiah and King, Dode. So it is apparent, if you just want to take the plain reading of the words, that Dode was drinking too much, and that impaired his judgment. And the first thing you wanted him to do was to sober up. That the rest of the lecture wasn't going to have any benefit.
If you don't sober up, you can't hear what's being said.
That is correct. You certainly can't. Your mental processes slow down when you have too much to drink.
When you're impaired, yeah.
Right. When you're impaired. So this was, don't do that. And part of it too was that God had prescribed, they were called chakak. Sometimes it's choke and chokma and chakak, but these are engraved prescriptions that have been inscribed for our benefit. Dode would have written a lot about them because it was one of the 4 words that he wove into his 119th
Yes.
Mizmor, describing how to properly observe the Torah. And so these are the written and inscribed prescriptions that have been etched in stone, if you will, without an eraser, that are important on how we're supposed to deal with people. And the instructions are for the king to properly deal with everyone that he is responsible for. And if you get blurred vision, if your judgment is altered, then you're prone to change things that you ought not change. You're prone to create a unique variation and exceptions for yourself. That's the problem of failed judgment. You can say, well, it's only one man and I'm king after all. Kings should get what they want. And you make excuses. And
men can justify anything when drunk on power.
They certainly can. And he certainly did.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, we must think our way to God, and we must think to stay in proximity to God. Dode was currently estranged, and the only way that this condition could be resolved is with a clear mind, which would then be unaffected by alcohol. He had to remain sober if he was going to exercise good judgment. Drugs of all types slow the rate that we process information, resulting in inferior decision making. Drugs also alter our sense of reality, and they impinge on our ability to distinguish between right and wrong. One of the reasons that we discourage children from drinking is that it affects their morality. People will do things when intoxicated that they would not do otherwise. And it's very seldom that they do things that are good versus things that are bad.
Perhaps he was drunk when he went onto that balcony and saw her.
Yeah, it was had a headache, and and then he sent messengers to pick her up, and that was the exercise of bad judgment. And sober, he may not have made that call, and it went downhill from there. So excess alcohol must be avoided. So based upon the fact that this is the second point that the M mother was making after telling Dode that he should not forfeit all God would and could achieve through him for another sexual indulgence, particularly with another woman, it is apparent that the king was abusing wine and maybe also abusing his power. He was using the deadening influence of alcohol to numb his senses so that he could avoid facing the mess he had made. And that's what people use most drugs for. Most of them are an escape from reality. Alcohol is a drug. It's an escape from reality. He wasn't happy with his life at this point. Shouldn't have been. He made a mess of it.
The only thing I disagree with is she's not just another woman. She is another man's wife.
And not just another man's wife. He had already done that to at least two other women prior to this. She was an exceedingly good man's wife, a man who was absolutely part of the covenant, a man who was out defending Israel and treating his men with great respect. He was a very good man. His name even means the light of Yah. So we recognize that alcohol is consumed, as are all drugs, by people whose lives become unfulfilling and meaningless, to numb the pain, the anguish of another day, of a meaningless existence. And we need purpose to be productive. We need to think to thrive. Most people, of course, forfeit both, squandering everything in the process. Therefore, even back in time, Dode was told that this was wrong, indeed counterproductive. He could not stand and fly right until he put down the bottle and sobered up. Now, personally, this means something to me because I've long stated that drug abuse is not a function of supply. You can go fight a war on drugs all day long, and you will get absolutely nowhere. It's like prohibition. They'll actually
start making it in the bathtub.
You make it worse, not better, because drug abuse is not a function of supply. It's a function of demand. When there are cravings, others will always find a way to fulfill them. So to resolve the problem, we must re-engage people's minds and their bodies such that they are thoughtful and so that they're meaningfully employed. There should be no entitlements because it leads to dependency on many things, including drugs. Yes, no entitlements. That would be God's philosophy as well. We must think, we must work, or we cease to be human. This next statement is akin to letting the dead bury the deceased. Intoxication isn't wasted on those who are going nowhere and have nothing to live for because it numbs the pain. Why? never beneficial, at least it is the least harmful approach. It precludes those who would otherwise be misleading and make mischief from doing something that at a cogent moment they might have been able to present an argument for their cause. So there is actually something to be gained if the most nefarious among us are incapacitated. And that's what you say next. So you can offer intoxicating beverages to the one who is already lost and dying, to the ones who have squandered their life, having wasted it away, and wine to the embittered and disagreeable soul. He can habitually drink to the point of constant intoxication and simply lose track of his impoverished state of incapacitation. And as a result, his meekness and ignorance will bother no one.
Mhm.
And then his unpleasant and distressful situation will no longer be remembered.
I know many men who fit that role explicitly.
Mm-hmm. Who had really useless lives. And, for example, the sickest man in the world today, the most demonic and dangerous man in the world today is Donald Trump. Unfortunately, he doesn't drink.
He does not drink.
And so
imagine he does all this sober as
Can you imagine how much better it would be, is your advice?
Yes.
If he was drunk as a skunk, because
hanging out in the bar with
he'd be more
floozy
passive.
women.
Yeah, he'd be more passive
Yes, he would.
And more self-indulgent as opposed to so destructive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's your advice. You're saying, listen, as a king, you have responsibilities.
Let them
and
drink.
I want you to remember the prescription that Yahweh has etched in stone. I don't want you to change them because, well, his predecessor had. Shaul decided that he could alter Yahweh's Torah instructions, did so. God pulled his spirit from him. He became demon possessed and got his head handed to him. So I said, that is a bad way to go.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to do that. It was your advice. So if somebody's going to drink to excess, let it be those who are already squandering their lives, who are useless and misleading, because it'll slow them down. You want your foes drunk because there's nothing, they will be incapacitated. So the only time being forgetful is advantageous is when remembering would lead to a counterproductive outcome. Forgetting Jesus, for example, Hashem or Allah, would actually be a step on the right direction. Some claim that alcohol emboldens people, but for most, it's actually a depressant rather than a stimulant. As a result, drinking to excess more typically makes the intoxicated individual more timid, in addition to being dumbed down to the point of ignorance. If you follow somebody on the road who is drunk,
they can't put two thoughts or two movements together.
But they slow down because they're so afraid of being pulled over for going fast. They go so slow that it's obvious that
they're drunk.
Drunk. Yeah. So God prefers that we have our wits about us so that we can be as credible as we are bold. And you're not going to be credible and bold, nor are you going to speak articulately if you are drunk.
If your executive functioning part of your brain is marinated in alcohol, good luck to you because you can't make decisions.
Yeah, most people don't know that alcohol, when you consume it, actually kills brain cells. So it does have a real negative effect. Now, you have a lot of them, but when you have alcohol to excess, it kills brain cells.
It's far worse for women than it is for men.
Mm-hmm. So far too, people already speak clearly and correctly on behalf of those who desperately need accurate and bold representation. And also presentations really of Yahweh's testimony. Therefore, mom in this case was being compassionate, but in a very assertive manner. Son, sober up. And she said, open your mouth and speak boldly, clearly, for those without a voice, concerning the defense and the cause of every child who is destitute and abandoned. 31:8. Open your mouth, communicating profusely when choosing to lead and litigate, making sound decisions correctly, honestly, and justly, thereby electing to exercise good judgment, governing and deciding the responsive and the willing, and defending the responsive and the willing. Powerful conclusion here that as king, you have responsibilities. One of the reasons.
Oh, you mean I told him to suck it up, Buttercup?
Yeah, as king, you have a responsibility. And the single most important thing that a good king is going to be focused on is those who need the king's help. The king shouldn't be, if the king is doing what Yahweh wants and is doing a good job for his people, then he doesn't have to worry about the most capable and successful, and they are not going to overturn him or lead a coup against him. What he can do is focus on those who need his help.
Yes.
You bring up the disadvantage, the bottom, and everyone rises with the tide. So what you were saying is that if you're sober, you can make good decisions regarding those who need it most. Care for those that need your support, but particularly the responsive. In other words, doesn't do you any good to waste your voice with those who don't want to listen. And also focus on the willing, who are enthusiastic. They would be the Ebonom. That's a loaded term that Leah smiles because she knows what it means. To be part of Yahweh's family, we are asked to engage in the family business. Our most valued products are words, powerfully and profoundly delivered. In this regard, we are to be aggressive and profuse, relentless in our pursuit of the truth for all to hear. Mom wanted her son to be as he was proclaimed, Sadak, right again. Our outreach on behalf of our Father should not only be thoughtful and honest, it should be directed at those who are responsive. Speaking to the religious is, quite frankly, a waste of breath. Feel free to criticize them, but never try to convert them.
Ew.
God doesn't want any part of them.
I
So
don't
you're
want them
not doing
anywhere. Yeah.
anybody a favor. They're going to get mad at you. You've wasted your time when it could have been used productively, and God has no interest in them. So
The religious have no interest in Yahweh, period.
let the dead bury the dead.
That's right. Next.
Now, this statement concludes with an interesting depiction from the Amma, this productive mother. She directed our attention to the Ebonom. Excuse me. They are the enthusiastically willing and acceptable. These are the men that actually recorded Dode's Sermon on the Mount and his Olivet Discourse. Decidedly anti-Christian narratives that we wouldn't have access to today without them. So we need to be grateful to them. They represent the only significant portions of the otherwise fraudulent Gospel of Matthew, those which were not plagiarized from the hearsay accounts of Mark and Luke, which represent some 75% of the text. But these insertions from the Ebonom are genuinely a gift to us. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any contemporaneous statements of Dode when he fulfilled Pesach, Matzah, and Bakorim, other than his own eyewitness in the 22nd and 88th Mizmor. The answer to this next question is provided throughout Dode's Psalms, where the king thanks Yahweh for providing his Amma, and his Amma would be a capital H. The Amma is always Yahweh's, and Dode is the one to whom Yahweh sent the Amma for the king's benefit.
I like this idea, and I'll tell you why.
Why is that?
I'm not any man's. No one can fight over me. I'm Yahweh's. No
Oh,
one can fight over me.
every time that the Amma is mentioned,
That's Yahweh's. Yeah.
and pursuant to Dode, the Amma, this productive woman, is Yahweh's. And she is sent to restore the relationship between father and son, Dode and Yahweh. So she proved more beneficial to him than crowns filled with jewels. She says, who can find, and where is one to obtain? How is he to acquire and experience a strong and capable woman of noble character? Far more valuable than rubies, corals, or jewels. Mashal 31:10. He can confide in her and confidently trust her. Now that's 31:11 in part. So the woman who will soon be called the greatest of all exemplifies the enriching and worthy character that we should all seek to develop and then convey. There are few things more appealing to Yahweh. The confidence to confide in another person, someone you know you can trust and rely upon, is truly one of life's greatest gifts.
It is.
And when that person is a wife or mother, a husband or father, well, it's especially enriching and empowering, often enlightening as well. This was Dode's response to Yah's gift. Having lost the parent sweepstakes and having married poorly, I too had no idea how marvelous the blessing could be until I met Leah. Now I can vouch for my king, recognizing that he had come from a similar place and then to the same place. We are in concurrence. He had useless parents and he had married poorly. I had substandard parents. That's a kind way to put it, as did you. And you also married poorly.
Oh, boy.
So we have grown to appreciate, therefore, the value of a great Heavenly Father. The value of a wife, a woman that a man can confide in, and vice versa. You don't have a comprehensive appreciation for some of these things unless you have suffered otherwise. I think it's one of the things, Leah, that is essential to conveying Yahweh's message. You have to have empathy. You have to recognize how frustrated he has been with us. And then you also need to be sober in your assessment of our families, because most families are broken on multiple levels. They're fractured between siblings, between parents, between husbands and wives,
cousins, aunties, it doesn't matter, in every direction.
Every possible direction. And it's the majority of them that are fractured on multiple levels. And by comparison, the covenant family is designed to be supportive and nurturing and enlightening and helpful. We have experienced those who don't belong, and they have been just like the earthly family. And again,
disastrous.
You need this, because without it, there isn't the appreciation for how much better God is offering us than what we do for ourselves.
Well,
And
without adversarial matters, you can't grow.
mhm.
And growing is part of what Yahweh promised we'd do.
Yes. So, speaking of being in agreement, by revealing how marvelous trust is for us between people, especially with those closest to us, those who love us, Yahweh is revealing what he wants from us, I think, in these words, and what he has to offer us. Well, this is the very objective of our existence. It's the reason God created us in the first place. To have somebody he could confide in, he could trust, he could rely upon, someone close to him that was out doing things with him. That if he turned his back, he wasn't worried. That if they made a mistake, he knew they would figure it out and we would grow from it. That weren't going to make a bad situation worse. That weren't going to try to cheat him or themselves. This is what God's looking for.
Yeah, I think it's the antidote to apathetic Adam. The
Yes.
opposite to apathy is attention, discernment.
Yeah. Dode had become far too much like Adam.
Mm.
His wives were far too much like Chava.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of this final word picture is to provide a contrast. In it, there is the testimony of a wife and her husband, a mother, and a human father. And they are the antithesis of Adam
Mm-hmm.
and Chava.
Yeah.
They listen to God. They respect who he is.
And Shishamar.
They think about what he has to say. They are responsive. They engage. They're willing to put it all on the line. And when they stumble and fall, which they have, it builds their character. It makes them more trustworthy and reliable because they have corrected their mistakes. They have grown from them. They have learned from them, which puts them in a position to have this kind of a talking to Dode, the great king of Yisrael. And it's only the confidence of having stumbled and fallen and seen someone else now doing so after you have recovered that puts you in a position where you can do this. So relationships thrive, they blossom, and they grow when love and trust coalesce and both parties are invested and engaged. And it is with those to whom we are the most vulnerable that continued and unrestrained exposure becomes the most rewarding and gratifying when trust prevails. It is what I was seeking in a wife. It is what Leah brought to our relationship. Now she's offering this same gift to our beloved son. And well, that's a lot to unpack and process. My wife's next line took me by surprise. Took her by surprise, I'm sure, as well. She spoke it 3,000 years ago, but I'm certain that it was not what she expected to read. And I began to find it reassuring. You see, I had always considered Baal, as it's sometimes pronounced, which is Lord and Master, but also husband, to be entirely derogatory because it is the most coveted title by Hasatan, the adversary.
It is.
But isn't it just like him to corrupt something good that he makes appear raw?
He is the great counterfeiter.
Yeah, he's the great faker.
The phony baloney.
It's replacement foolology for a reason. And so here, he took something that is good.
That is important, actually.
Yeah, this is a strong, a particularly strong husband that, and a wife that is, by her choice, has chosen to be subject to him. I mean, this is not God saying your husband will lord over you. This is a word that's used to depict the kind of marriage where the woman is protected in an environment that is built and managed by a very strong man, and that she has grown comfortable surrendering in this regard, because it is, well, for those that have not thought this through, it's actually the greatest of all signs of trust, to trust another this way. It's one of the greatest gifts of free will.
To give another your strength.
Mm-hmm.
is to hold them responsible for your entire well-being.
Yes, it is. It is the kind of the actionable form of ultimate trust.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like so many things that I have shared previously. And this psalm is, this proverb is for you the same thing, that the most enjoyable of all states is to have the benefit without the responsibility.
Sure.
Being given the responsibility is that's a lot of work, and it makes a person a target.
Sure.
It means they have to perform.
Sure.
That's why I was so much happier in doing Yada Yawa as Yada, as somebody who was seeking to know but was anonymous. And that when God said, no, we're not going to do it that way because that's not the way I do it. And we said, okay, we're going to go where the words lead. And then he had hundreds of titles and probably 1,000 depictions. You realize that with that goes tremendous responsibility, and you get a target on your head, and it becomes far less comfortable. Now you have sure benefits, but you also have responsibility. Now, the whole Baal concept of a woman having the trust in a man to be submissive, if you will, surrender, offer her well-being to him. He now picks up the responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
He has to care more about her than he does himself. Everything he does, if he's doing this correctly, is focused more on, are her needs being met? Is she better off? Is she better protected? Is she more nurtured and more able, based upon the decisions that we're making, than she would be otherwise? You gain responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And gaining responsibility sometimes is good, sometimes is bad. You, by being the subject of the final word picture, now have come into the spotlight, where you preferred, as an introvert,
Deeply prefer
to be behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't be that anymore. God has changed that. And there's no going back. And it is not, well, the term Ashar says that you are a blessing and a benefit. You are to others, but this is not a blessing and benefit to you.
No.
It's that you become a blessing and benefit to others.
Yes.
As the Amma.
Because I can assure you, it does not feel like a blessing.
Yes. As the Amma, the productive mother of Yahweh, you now have the responsibility for the covenant children.
I've actually been playing the role of that responsibility for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. But not the acknowledged responsibility, the quiet responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do the best I can for them, and anything I contribute is better than somebody not doing it. Well, that ain't the case anymore, sweetheart. It's just like me. I began this thinking, I'm enjoying this. I'm devoted to it. I'm learning a lot. We've written a bunch of books and shared just a great bunch of information in this wonderful. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we read the story of the Choder, and you say, well, there's nobody else in all of human history that fits other than me. And then you read the story of the Nakar, and you go, oh my. And then you read about the Zeroa, and you go,
and it just kept going on and on and on.
Goodness.
And what did I tell you? Suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah. Oh my. After a while, you go, okay, so we're not going to be anonymous anymore. God, do you have any idea what that's going to do to my life?
Yeah.
Because at this point, I have to be all in. I can never take at least until the job is done, I cannot take a vacation.
No.
I can't have any other interests.
No.
It's all
no hobbies.
It's all in every day, as much as a person can be committed to this. It's, I'm over 70 years old and I'm working 90-hour weeks.
Yes.
this is all in. And even that, my time is hugely augmented by your research and contributions, Rich doing the production of these programs, and so many other essential members of our team that are supportive of this. But I just want you to know that when this presentation makes it obvious that Leah is the mother who is addressing Dowd in this circumstance, that this is not a grab for power for Miss Leah. The moment that it became obvious, it just tears in her eyes, because it's frightening, it's scary, it's overwhelming, because we know what happens every time attention is drawn to someone, particularly if it's by God. We know what happens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Look what happened to Abraham. Look what happened to Jacob, and look what happened to Moshe. It's tough. Look what happened to Dowd. Look what happened to all the prophets. Was there a single prophet that said, God, this is really fun, we're going to start it, we're going to go and give them both barrels tomorrow? Yeah, this is going to be wonderful. They're going to hate us, but what the heck? Isn't it great?
Yeah.
No, it's hard.
How about this? Could you imagine me walking up to my little brother and saying, I'm Yahweh's Amma? He would laugh me out of the room.
Of course. Yeah.
It's that simple.
Oh, yeah. When I speak to Israel and say, I am the Nakar, the observant foreigner,
they don't have a clue.
That the prophet spoke. There is no one who qualifies for the Choder. I am that Choder. And the Choder is the tree of knowledge. I'm not telling you this because I want anything from you other than your attention. God made this designation so that he would get your attention, so that you would listen and know that, that the words that he was conveying through this man, he has authorized, that he has inspired. And so that's the reason why God does not do it anonymously. He was very clear when Miriam said that we also speak for God, and Yahweh shot right back, no, you don't.
I don't think so.
No, when I inspire someone to speak for me, he knows it and you know it, because I've made it abundantly clear that I have chosen this person to speak for me, which is why there are, upwards of 1,000 references to this particular job. It's always been so amazing to me, Leah, that there are all these people in Judaism. They're looking for a returning Messiah, an unnamed turning Messiah, and there are virtually no prophecies about a returning Messiah. And yet, in Christianity,
what a great way to compete with the Christians.
Yeah, and then the Christians
they got theirs. We need ours.
Their guy was the arrival of the promised Messiah, but there isn't a promised Messiah. No. But what there are is upwards of 1,000 references to this Nakar, this observant foreigner, to this Choder, to the cold voice of God, to the Bashar Herald, to the Zeroah, the one cultivating the seeds of the harvest, to the Adama Parah, this productive man and bull, to the man from Edom who will save many. It goes on and on and on with the lesser luminary reflecting the greater luminary's light, the personification of the tree of knowledge through the depiction of the Choder. And with the Choder, there's 11 spirits of Yah that inspire him. And no one is looking for this, the most decisive individual ever. I mean, occasionally I will post that Donald Trump is the Antichrist. And of course, we know there was no Christ, so you technically can't be an Antichrist. I use the term because it is the term that people can relate to the condition of Donald Trump. He is not only demon-possessed, it's Satan himself who is residing within Trump. And there are many, many prophecies that pertain to this. And I've used the term Torahless One to describe him, the great betrayer. I've also used, but this individual is depicted in numerous places. The book of Ezekiel is Satan's autobiography, so he calls him, the copper con, he's measure man, and other places he is the man with the goatish comb over hair that's long in years, very old, that is sexually perverted and ridiculously egotistical and warlike, who is the one that's going to betray Israel in the end and cause world war. But so there's some references to this individual. But by comparison, there's 1,000 times more references to the role that God has asked me to play. And yet when I tell people, listen, I'm not bragging here. I just want you to know that God wants to bring this to your attention because he would like to invite you to go to yadayah.com and read the book of Yadayah, because he is speaking through me at this time to you.
Well,
it doesn't even resonate. They're not even curious.
No, but they, concerning this specific mashal, they have built an entire industry around what is known as the Ashet Yael, which is the virtuous woman.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a clue as to who she is. They have an entire industry.
Of course. And Roman Catholicism created Mary. I couldn't have picked a worse name, because Mary means embittered and rebellious. That she was the mother of God and the queen of heaven and all of the Madonna and child, and it's based upon the Asherah myth. Going back to ancient Babylon, and of course it permeates all of the Greek and Roman religions as well. And so God is saying, no, there is no mother of God. Dode is not God. He is my firstborn, but he is not God. And his birth mother is so irrelevant, she's unknown. So let's be clear on all of this. There is no queen of heaven.
And there's no Shekinah.
But there is
either.
a productive mother that nurtures the covenant. And she is Ashar, blessed and beneficial. And she saved our Savior from
Do you know
himself.
how you become Ashar? By Shamar Torah. You Shamar Torah. That's the whole. That's how it's done. Shamar Torah.
Yeah, that's what this says towards the end of this testimony. So clearly, that is a lot, as we have said, to unpack and process. So with my wife's next line, as she's talking to Dode, she uses Baal, the Lord and Master. And while I'd always thought of it to be derogatory because there were prophets promoting Baal as a god, from Yahweh's point of view, Baal is the strong and forceful husband of his Amah, of this woman.
And Eliah did not rail against Asherah and Baal. He railed against those who spoke for them.
That's right. The ones that turned, it was Asherah and Baal into religious gods. They're not. I mean, one of the 12 tribes is named Asher. And Leah, when she is able to give Jacob Asher, the son, by way of her maid, announces that she is therefore Ashar, blessed, and that she is a benefit to all as a result of this. So it's a name that God cherishes, or he would not have allowed it to be used this way.
Right.
Leah is the mother of Yehud, of Jews, but it's celebrated in this way.
Yeah,
and
one missing detail. When that starts, when she hands her handmaid over to Zilpah to produce another child, she realized that she was barren.
Yes.
Small detail.
Yeah. At that point, she was barren. Yeah. There are, as you found, there are 6 women that are presented barren.
Yes, 6 women.
Leah is the 6th, and even after bearing children, she was made barren. The other 5 all had that resolved by God. Sarah, of course, being the most famous of them. But all of them had it resolved by God. You were the sixth. And according to what we're going to read here, and then in the supportive 54th chapter of Yashaya, in your marriage to Baal, it is resolved in your case. So it's one of the favorite things that Yahweh resolves. So celebrate, sing a great song, O barren woman. So in this light, Baal, as I have shared, also means husband, albeit with an interesting twist. And so now the question is, do I share those insights with you? Because I don't know really how vulnerable I should become in conveying the full intent of my wife's confession, not knowing whether or not I can trust all of you who are listening to this or who may read it on a future date. But at least this much I will offer you. I'm obliged to affirm that it was my wife, Leah, speaking to our son, Dode, who disclosed this insight into our relationship. Further, so you're the one that brought it up. Dode is reporting it. This is what he recalls of that narrative that you had with him. So in that way, we have to go where the words lead, because it was an inspired text. Further, as an inspired prophetic portrayal, Leah is a very strong, Oz is the Hebrew term, and Chokmah, intelligent woman, which is stated here in this last word picture. So this is not a weak woman that is submitting. This is an extremely strong and intelligent woman. She ran her own business, a luxury fashion label in a highly competitive sector where she was the chief stylist, fashion designer, procurement agent for the finest fabrics, lead seamstress, promoter, saleswoman, CEO, and CFO. She was a boss lady in a man's world. And it became worse when she finally was married because her first husband was a submissive man.
Oh, yeah.
That's not an attractive thing for a strong woman to be married to a submissive man.
No.
Doesn't work very well. So we hadn't been together more than a few days when the subject of role playing to keep the relationship exciting and fun arose. I had concluded that men just were never made to be monogamous. I considered everything I could study. I mean, I actually studied it, and plus,
and given their proclivities, I had a tendency to agree with you.
Yeah, and so my own experience and the experiments of others, and everything I read in the Torah, I just that men are not designed to be monogamous. So I said, let's come up with a way, because that is your preference, is for monogamy. So I said, I have an idea. If I'm going to have one woman, let's have that one woman be many women, and role playing, fun, turning romance into something that is fun.
Yes, I think your favorite game is Sexitary.
Yeah, well, of course. And you were the best ever. I will never forget those moments. I wasn't going to go there, but thank you for reminding me.
You're welcome.
It brings a smile to my face. I will tell you that.
Always
does. It can take more than a glass of wine, though, for me to share that story. Okay. So anyway, we talk about having fun with role playing, and we decided that on occasion we would experience and experiment with Baal Isha. And she pursued it with a passion. You did. And you were the one, when I said, that might be fun. And she said, yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
And you found great comfort and joy in being able to surrender to a man that you now trusted completely. Even
at first it was difficult because I said to myself in haste that all men were liars, and I was pretty sure of it. And then you came along. And it did take a little while for me to open up, but Yes, when I was there, I learned that I could trust you.
Yes. So you thought it would be fun to do this. And so even as a thin slice of our love,
Very.
you actually wrote your most romantic poems about our most romantic moments as I would treasure them in playing in this regard. Now, I understand that if that is more than many of those listening wanted to hear, but it is your confession. You made it 3,000 years ago. Dode recorded it. I'm just coming up to speed with it. These are
Love
your
is
words.
love.
Yeah, these are your words, and they
love is love. I grew up in that era. Love is love.
Yeah, love is love. They provide a
That's right.
marvelous window into loving relationships with spouses and with our God. So I have free will, and so does Leah.
Yes.
And she isn't surrendering it to respond in this manner. Instead, she is saying, I implicitly, emotionally, and mentally trust you, such that I'm willing to make myself completely vulnerable to you, knowing that I now bear myself the responsibility to treat her as a precious jewel, as someone more valuable than my own life. Now, there's no life and death kind of thing here, but there is in terms of the sense of
if you drop the ball, I'm walking.
Yeah, it's
just that easy.
If you blow it, you've ruined the relationship.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you only have one chance to blow it here. You have to be
cautious,
completely trustworthy in this regard.
Sure.
Yeah, I recall we had one moment where you said, "Let's play," and then you got.
I used the safe word. Yes,
you got nervous, and we said, "Okay." Well,
I was like, "Okay, no,
that's it. Let's just hug, and we'll go off and we'll do something else." And it was marvelous, and
you're very gracious about it. Yeah.
So it's in those moments that she personifies love and our relationship soared. And it is her emotional strength and mental prowess that shines as she crowns her husband by the confidence that she places in him. And you were having this conversation with Dode. And you wanted to get his attention. You wanted to come right at him where he was currently struggling.
No, I wanted to stick between the ribs and twist just a little.
Right. So, Bathsheba may have submitted herself to you, but you didn't respond appropriately. Therefore, just as Dode's adoptive mother is revealing something enormously profound that we can apply to our own lives, we can also use it to enhance our relationship with God. How is he to find, obtain, and experience a strong and capable woman of noble character, who is enriching and virtuous, far more valuable than rubies, corals, or jewels? Well, he can confide in her, and he can confidently trust her, relying on her even during missteps, and still feel safe. So in the judgment and desire, in the mind and heart, even in the thoughts of emotions of her husband, of her Baal, Lord and Master, he never lacks for anything. He never ceases to prosper. He never stops benefiting. And he is never deprived, such that he is not without what he needs to prevail, particularly regarding those things deemed most valuable. Proverbs 31, 10 and 11. So it's a lesson in life. Sometimes when we give of ourselves, we get the most in return. And in this case, when trust is exemplified, then neither party is ever left wanting. No one is either ever deprived. No one is without what they need to prevail. And so what she is sharing is the kind of relationship that she thought would be best for him,
Mm-hmm.
because it was the kind of relationship that was best for her.
Mhm.
And that she knew that her husband was very much like him. They had very similar personalities. And
Mhm.
that
Very
in
similar problems.
and approaching the husband-wife relationship this way, that since she had prospered with her husband, she thought that Dode would do the same if he chose a wife that could measure up to
Mhm.
that standard, who was exceedingly bright, strong, and in exercising her free will would do so in a manner that was exceedingly helpful to him. I remember we had a young woman here who came out of a terrible religious cult, was
Ooh,
abused terribly, and
very
we
bad
tried
cult.
to
Mhm.
serve as mother and father for her and as grandparents to her daughter.
Mm. Mhm.
And there came a time after we'd been together for a couple of years where she wanted to go off. She had become infatuated with a man who had a decent income, and she thought maybe he could take care of her, and she wanted to have a child without the responsibility of having to raise the child alone. And she was then trying to paint this man in the romance novel style. And,
Mm.
he was going to be loyal and supportive to her. She was going to be the only woman in the world to him. She was going to live as the queen of his castle. And I just stopped her and I said, then it's going to fail,
Yeah.
because what you're doing is you're projecting on him things that are unreal, and you're not giving to him the things that would make it real for you.
Truly.
So there's really nothing you can do here that is going to turn out well. And when I said that to her and tried to explain it in numerous different ways, as did you, she left, took her daughter away, and after all the time and all the meals and all of the investment,
Never spoke to us again.
never spoke to us again.
Yeah, this is something that I've done with several women along the way, especially college educated women specifically in the literary arts, is this idea of romanticism. You have to kill it. It is so detrimental, and it's almost like a mental illness.
The religious interpretation of romanticism
Oh, awful.
and the way that a religious marriage ought to play out
Magical thinking.
is hopelessly broken. And
it's magical thinking. It's not even
just
magic.
It's magical
grotesque,
nightmare.
yeah.
And it always devours itself.
Yeah.
Because it isn't realistic.
Yeah.
And so in this case, we happened to have her brother over for it was our anniversary party.
Yes.
And her brother's just such an interesting fellow.
He is.
One of my very favorite fellows. And
another strong man.
Exceedingly strong
Yes.
man, creative, really a gifted man, brilliant. And so I asked him, I said, we haven't heard for a while. And we explained to him our goal with your sister was to be mother and father, to role play mother and father, so that she got the kind of counsel and support that she needed, and that we worked as grandparents to her daughter. And we had this conversation about that she had unrealistic expectations with a man, and we thought that it was going to turn out very badly for her if she pursued that. And she just left, and we didn't hear from her again. How did it turn out?
She has two children.
His response was unbelievably awful. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. She has no ongoing relationship now, really, with her daughter. She's now in a bad situation because he's terrible, and
she has two
trapped.
more children by him now,
and she's trapped.
She's trapped. Yeah.
So, one of the messages of this marvelous word picture is that when a strong woman offers advice and makes herself vulnerable, as you did, in offering this kind of advice, you ought to capitalize upon it and be exceedingly appreciative for it. That's the message of this Mizmor. So strength of character is the catalyst for all of this. Trust is essential. When they are present, there are no limits to what we can achieve. Under such circumstances, our missteps become the stepping stones of progress. A mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow. We may stumble, but under these circumstances, we do not fall. When we hold one another's hands, we are tangibly supported and strengthened. We know that we are not alone. Life is better when shared. And thereupon is also the explanation for creation.
It is.
It's the recipe for a perfect marriage.
It is.
And it is the very menu that God has laid out for us for a loving and productive relationship with Him.
Mm-hmm.
Under such circumstances, our missteps become stepping stones to progress.
And growth.
A mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow.
Mm-hmm.
We may stumble, but we do not fall. When we hold one another's hand, we are tangibly supported and strengthened. We know that we are not alone. Life is better when shared. And therein is the explanation for marriage and creation.
And family. Mm-hmm.
Now, these are the things that our King David had not experienced. Not from another person, ever. Because his parents had all but abandoned him. And of course, he married poorly. And so Leah is telling David that this was the missing ingredient in his life. She was not only revealing that we, as surrogate parents, would provide for this man, but she was also affirming that if he were to trust Yahweh to help him recover from his current predicament, from his poor judgment regarding a woman that had been caused by him, that he would never lack for anything going forward. And God even affirms this. If he had asked me for anything, I would have given it to him.
Yep.
He would not only succeed fulfilling his destiny, God would fulfill his heart's desire along the way.
Yep.
Now, I did share this in our last program, maybe 2 programs ago, but I want to repeat it. Leah did not go back in time.
No.
To meet with David. That would be impossible.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot go back in time and affect the past.
No.
It would rip the very nature of our universe to shreds.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to have to go into the science of all of that, but trust me when I say you cannot go back in time and interact.
No.
Ever.
No.
Leah's not going back in time.
No.
Leah is one of 2 people that we know God chose to interject throughout time. I made a mistake the other day and confused Enoch with Enosh.
Enosh. Yeah.
Yeah, and when God says with Enoch, he was walking with God, and then he was not. That God took him. That name isn't based on Enosh, which means mortal. It's based on something far more valuable to the point that I was making. It means one who is properly trained and then dedicated and devoted to the job that they must do. And both of us are in that role. We have been trained by God to do this job, and we're devoted to it. And
all you have to do is Shamar Torah. That's it.
Well, that is the foundation of all of it. And what God has done here is that he created an environment where chaos can still reign.
Oh, yeah.
And he had to, otherwise there's no free will, or otherwise he would have predestined the outcome. Mm-hmm. And so there has to be fundamental chaos in the system. And therefore, there are many, many ways that God's plans could have unraveled, because when he caused the fall of man, it wasn't to man's detriment, but to man's benefit.
Mhm.
because it was the only thing that gave humankind
A second
the
chance.
ability to have the kind of experiences where we could learn and grow
Mhm.
and demonstrate that we were trustworthy and we could ultimately be taken off this planet and given empowered bodies of light energy. So what God needed to do along the way is at very vulnerable moments, he needed to protect his interests. And I've shared that one of those, even using the term Amma, productive mother,
Mhm.
was when a productive mother, Leah, was dispatched to make certain that Moshe's life was not only spared, but that he would be adopted within the Pharaoh's household, not because Pharaoh was good, he was awful,
Mhm.
so that he could be exposed to the terrible nature of religion, of politics, of the caste economic system, of militarism. And he knew that the character of this man would ultimately rise to the occasion and he would oppose those things.
Yes.
But if Moshe had not been given that opportunity, if genocide had continued to be perpetrated against the Israelites, then the whole plan unravels.
Yep.
And so you were sent there to make certain that he ended up in the place that Yahweh wanted him for the whole play to continue to work out as it did. Another example is that Dode is the central figure of this whole story. Everything is hinges, literally, the door swings to life and death based
Mhm.
upon Dode's relationship
Mhm.
with Yahweh and his willingness to do as it needed to be done to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakodim.
Yep.
And he fell off the wagon. He was a really, really bad boy. And God
Yeah.
couldn't just look the other way and intervene and say, come on, boy, we'll work this out. No, but what he did is he sent his Amma. And that's why Dode and many of these Mizmor says, oh, Yahweh, thank you for sending this miraculous woman, your Amma, to me to release the shackles that I had placed on myself so I can be free of all of this. And now we can work together again. And now he says, celebrating, I can be your servant again. I can be your co-worker because you sent your Amma.
Mhm.
So she is inserted all a long time.
It's usually the role of a woman to smooth over the arguments between men.
Yep. Well, there's also places where the man got inserted to
Mhm.
help Dode, when we were trying to relocate the Ark of the Covenant. And Yahweh's metaphor was the bull was going to get it in the right place. That's the work of the Adamah Parah.
Yes.
And for Teruah, for Dode to anoint it on Kippurim when he returns. And a man who was too full of himself, who became, from God's point of view, a treacherous woman, he renamed him her, got in the way,
Yes.
tried to circumvent God's metaphor. And Dode had a conniption fit, thought that God had overreacted. This was the beginning of the falling out.
Mhm.
And then God stood in and provided Obed-Edom. And Obed-Edom is the man from Edom that Yeshaya talks about in the 63rd chapter of his book that saves many. Both of them are from the wine vat, by the way.
Yeah.
To make sure you got this point and you understood it. So God inserted this man to take care of this for Dode, to show him the way. And Dode, of course, went on to celebrate the relocation of the Ark. And then, of course, it's we have an Amma sighting at the end of that, of course, because
Yes,
Michal, his embittered wife, Shaul's daughter, was mocking Dode and said, no, you're really not all that significant. You claim you're all that significant to God, but you're not.
Yeah.
And he said, all right, well, since you mentioned the Amma,
Mhm.
then we'll ask
see what she thinks.
We'll ask the Amma what she thinks about my kabod, my significance. And it was both a burning comeback that she would not stand it anyway beyond he's going to go and show that he's a worthy lover to his concubines. But for those in the know, No, what he was actually saying,
Hmm.
and the reason God said that's my boy, is that the productive mother, the Amma, she's coming to me, and she's going to relish and
Resolve the dispute.
affirm my significance, my kabod.
Mm-hmm. And resolve the dispute.
And resolve my significance, by the way. Give my significance back to me is the ultimate gift. So my wife asks, in this case, is your relationship with Yahweh at this same level? She was serving as a surrogate parent to provide affirming instructions to Dode, admonishing him, trying to correct him, trying to resolve this predicament from bad judgment. And he was saying that, once you resolve this, God's going to give you everything your heart desires.
I was comparing our love
Mm-hmm.
to basically engaging him. Does your love look like ours?
Yes. Yeah. So my wife asks, is your relationship with Yahweh at this same level?
Mm-hmm.
Do you trust God implicitly? Are you committed to the relationship, heart and mind? Has he been able to demonstrate through you that obstacles are opportunities, that mistakes serve to prove our mettle?
Mm.
When we submit our will to his, we are empowered, even enabled and emancipated. Remember that veil?
Mm-hmm.
The same situation with free will. The stronger we are, the more intelligent we are. And under those circumstances, when we submit our will to his, only good things happen. We're empowered, we're enriched, we're emancipated, we're loved, we're cared for, we're nurtured. Now, I view much of this as the synergistic expression of the explosive growth that is emblazoned in the famous formula E equals mc squared.
Mm.
Most people don't even know what that means, but Einstein's formula says that energy, light, for example, radiant energy, is equal to matter, mass,
Yes,
but only times the square of the speed of light.
that's right.
So you see, light speed is the regulatory factor of our universe. It's the
Mm-hmm.
glue that holds our universe together.
Mm-hmm.
It is the reason why there is a 0% possibility, zero, that we will ever visit another star or
that's
solar
ridiculous.
system, ever, even in our own galaxy. We will never even get to the neighboring stars in our galaxy. Even given 1,000 years, we couldn't do it. It's impossible. Nor can any other life form ever visit Earth. That's why when people talk about UFOs, I just laugh at them. I said, no, it's physically impossible. It can never happen. It will never happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the obstacles are enormous and
Yes.
they're insurmountable. So no, it will never occur. You're only going to be able to enjoy the universe that Yahweh created with trillions of galaxies, each with billions, hundreds of billions of stars, and then planets.
Man prefers to play God and go and build his own planets.
Yeah,
they want to play God.
Yeah, and we can do that when we're liberated from the restraints of our physical bodies and
Not
become
before then.
enveloped in light energy, and Yahweh enriches and empowers us for that purpose. But he cannot do that until we demonstrate that he can trust us. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the entire purpose of this last word picture, is that you're trying to encourage Dode to earn God's trust again. So in Dode's case, my wife was revealing that by adding another woman to his harem, he wasn't going to add anything at all to his life. He wasn't going to contribute something more or something valuable to our world. Sex is good, even fun, but it isn't in the same league as being able to confidently confide in someone that you can genuinely trust. And that's what Yahweh seeks from us.
Hmm.
There are very few things more appealing to God or rewarding or beneficial than knowing he can confide in us and we can reciprocate by showing that we're trustworthy. In addition to all of this, Leah, of course, was resetting Yahweh's intent in Gan Eden. God wanted Adam to trust him in this same way and to benefit with the same result. And when that did not occur, Chava was conceived to complete and serve her man in this manner. So when that went horribly wrong, this exceptional M, this mother, reset the model that Yahweh had envisioned, and all in anticipation that Dode would start listening, responding, and engaging such that he would recapture God's trust. I think what you actually promised him was that you would curate a woman for him. That from the remnant of Yisrael, or from those who were part of the covenant family, that you would find him a wife, and that you would assure him that she was properly vetted, that he could trust her, that he could confide in her, and that he would find her, giving him everything that he needed to be a good and fair, just king.
To be a better man.
And to be a better man as a result. So ultimately, it wasn't so much that he had tripped over himself, that he had fallen, or that he couldn't get out of his own way and was making his situation worse. It was that Yahweh can be trusted to respond favorably when we confide in him, when we rely on him. And when we show him that we can be trusted in return, that we can learn from our mistakes. Therefore, Leah was resetting Eden halfway through the process, giving us the opportunity through this collaboration between Yahweh and Dode to re-enter the garden. A good woman, one who is courageous and cerebral, is the power behind the throne. And this throne has been made by God. It's comprised of the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant. This is quite a throne.
It is.
Had Chava done as Leah is instructing, we would have remained privileged and prevailed in Eden. Adam would have been inspired to turn his life around, as Yahweh had hoped. He would have been off and exploring the universe and dimensions well beyond our own and enjoying our Creator's company. If only.
If only.
So I like to convey what follows as there is no limit to what we can achieve when we're willing to share credit for what we accomplish. Leah went one step further, one step beyond, suggesting that the one who serves to make progress and productivity possible. She is the enabler. Work is a beautiful thing, according to my wife and to our God. In fact, thinking and working are essential to our humanity. It says she acts in a way that yields to and serves him, so as to treat him properly, beautifully, and productively. Tob. Beneficially in a good, generous, and pleasing way, and is never harmful, troubling, or disagreeable, or hindersome. She is not Ra. Ever heard of Tob and Ra? When are Tob and Ra brought together?
When are they brought together?
Yes, the tree of the knowledge of Tob and Ra.
Yes, the knowledge of good and evil.
All of the days of her life. Che, what is the relationship between those trees? One is
the tree of life.
Chayim. All of the days of life. And that what you're offering is to be the Tob side of that equation and never indulging in the Ra. And the result is life.
Life is good.
Yeah, a good place for us to end this program. We've gone just shy of an hour and 30 minutes. I promised we wouldn't go much over an hour or so. And we have the opportunity to pick this up tomorrow. It's Friday tomorrow, correct?
Absolutely.
Family hour tomorrow. And I know that everyone that is part of our broadcast team on Friday is looking forward to having Leah there in the hot seat and us boys pursuing this marvelous Mizmor. We're at 3112. There are 31 statements that are in it all total, and they ramp up with a considerable power. Dode is saying, okay, this was good. This was another thing. It's really good. This is great. This is tremendous. This is wonderful. And then wham, this is the best ever. And there is nothing that could ever be compared to the M mother that provided the greatest gift of all. She resolved the fractured relationship between the ultimate father and ultimate son. Well, I end this whole discussion by saying that we read in Yeshaya, Isaiah 9, that God gave his son to us. Well, there was a woman who gift wrapped him first and adorned him for success, making that gift possible.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. Well, I thank you all for listening. It's been a wonderful trip down memory lane, and so many life lessons and this beautiful word picture, the last mashal, Proverb 31. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Good evening.